Okay, welcome back for another episode of What is That Clarinet? Recently, I sent some emails about one in particular about an Evette K series clarinet. Now, I became aware of this in an earlier video I did like 3 years ago or something, and I never really paid attention to Evettes, but there's an Evette K series clarinet. There's also an Evette Schaeffer K series clarinet. Now, a few things you're going to look at these pictures and look at other pictures on eBay has a whole bunch of Evette K series clarinets and they all look the same. What we're going to do is we're going to compare it against a Malerne stencil. We're going to compare it against a first year made Evette Schaeffer K series clarinet. Then if we need to, also an early Buffet R13. Because people love to compare their clarinet against R13 thinking it's R13. It must be. It has no name on it. Anyways, we're going to go right to the pictures first of the Evette K series clarinet. So these were some of the pictures sent to me. Some of the things we want to look at first and pay attention to when we compare it to other clarinets are a few things. First of all, we would say, oh, the throat keys are separated posts for the throat keys. Must be an R13. But really, by this time frame, a lot of the manufacturers, they all did that. Matter of fact, I think LeBlanc did that earlier, and Malerne did it earlier than the R13. One thing to keep in play is look at the trill key guide. It's kind of tapered towards the top and it's really thin. Now we know what Buffet looks like, and that's not it. Next, if we look at the top pad cup that we have here on the far right, you'll see that the post is halfway through where the tone hole basically is. So this upper pad cup arm is bent up, going up. And that's actually a good key indicator of, as an example, Malerne. Malerne wasn't the only one to do that, but they're one of the biggest stencil makers out there. I think Martin Faries also did that, and can't remember the other companies off the top of my head. Down here, there's a cutout for the spring there, which we know is a Buffet identifier, but it's also a Malerne identifier. Now here we have two things to look at. One is both the pinky keys are on one post. So the mechanism slides into each other and they're in one post. Now look to the far left and you'll see these use lifters. Basically, the keys can move independently from the right-hand pinky keys. If you press down the right-hand pinky keys, these keys can just jiggle around as you play and you can move them up and down and they won't have any bearing on the other keys. Whereas the K series and of course, the R13s, they have what's called pin and sockets. There's a pin coming off of the key into a little hole on the lower right-hand pinky key arms. Completely different there. And we'll see that in a bit. So keep that in mind. This you can see here, upside down K7108, it looks like. You can see here it says Evette, sponsored by Buffet, Paris, France. Many times you see sponsored by Buffet, you can basically guess it was made by somebody else, probably Malerne. Really, that's all the pictures there. I'm going to run real quickly to pictures I pulled off of eBay, just so you can see these in comparison. Real quickly, once again, we can see here a single post for the left-hand pinky keys. This, you can see the post for the key, the ring keys, is basically halfway through the tonal, so this curves up a bit. We look at the trill key guy, you can see how thin that is. A little bit fuzzy, but once again, we can see where the post is going to the tone hole here and how this is kind of curved upwards. We can see that these are lifters here versus pin and socket. You can see the lifters here versus pin and socket. Now let's look at another Evette K series. Okay, here we go. Once again, we can see these same indicators here. We see a thin trill key guide. We see the post going through the upper tone hole here in the lower joint, pad cup, and the backup arm is bent forward. You can see a single post there, and there's going to be lifters in here too. You see the serial number K6335. You can see the lifters here, single post there. You see there's no cutouts underneath the right-hand pinky keys, by the way. K series. So once again, that's the second Evette K series on eBay. I pulled pictures down off of, but they kind of all look the same. There's like 4 of them out there right now. But anyways, let's take a look at a Malerne stencil. All right, now what I have with me here is Malerne stencil. It's actually called a, here's a Sears brand, Symphony. Not to be confused with the LeBlanc Symphony, of course. But this is a Sears brand sold in the 70s, maybe early 80s. I actually remember these when I was small, going through Sears, and they had a bunch of instruments, saxophones, trumpets, trombones, clarinets. And let's look at the identifiers real quickly. I'll actually bring this up to the camera. You can see really thin trill key guide. See that? You know, this does have swooping side B flat. Of course, looks like an R13 if you only look at the throat keys. But one of the identifiers, one of the key identifiers, pun intended, is look at the top pad cup here. You'll see the post goes through the tone hole, and you see the arm is slightly up twisted. See how that is? Now this happens to have 2 posts with side keys, but if we look here, this is what I'm talking about, lifters. See right in here? This lifts up those key arms. If we hold these up here, we can see these keys can actually move independently of the lower pinky keys. So when you're playing, you have this. What can happen, depending upon the angle you're playing, is this key could just kind of like bounce around as you play, because nothing's holding it in place. The pin usually goes into a socket here, and on better clarinets, as we take a look at least on the K series, you'll see that it isn't like that. Of course, there's no cutouts down here. You'll see a cutout under here for the spring, which is also buffet-like, but there's no pattern on it. Anyone can do that. But that's a Malerne stencil. Now let's look at a first year manufactured K series buffet clarinet. So the keys aren't on here, but let's take a quick look. You'll see how much fatter the trill key guide is. Still thin, but it's a larger diameter, and it's not tapered at all. This is very buffet R13 like. I actually looked in my charts. I don't actually have this measured up. By the way, the serial number on this is K1104. So it's a very early production K series. Like I said, first year production. What you'll see here, oh yeah, this is the one there. This had a large crack going through it, but it has separate posts for each of the left-hand pinky keys, and it did have cutouts underneath for the right-hand pinky keys. Of course, cutout for the spring down here too. But this is nothing like. That is nothing like the Evette K series we just looked at. Keywork's completely different, and as I showed you on a Malerne stencil, the Malerne stencil looks really very, very close, except for the double versus singular left-hand pinky keys posts. And the Evette K series, I'm pretty sure, is a Malerne made clarinet, versus this K series, which is definitely a buffet made clarinet. And it looks more like a buffet than that Evette certainly did. So hopefully that's some good identifiers for you to see how these things are, how you identify things. You gotta really look at it. Many people, when they bring clarinet, they say, oh, this must be a R13 relabeled as something else, because they want it to be. They're emotionally attached to it. They want it to be better than what it is. But it's a student clarinet. It's a Malerne made clarinet. So learn these identifiers and you can really understand what clarinets were made by who and everything else. I'll have a different video later on comparing this first year production K series buffet clarinet to an actual early R13, because I have a couple early R13s, 51,000 and 50,800 something. But anyways, we'll get to that in another video. But for now, as you can see, the Evette K series clarinet is a Malerne made clarinet. Clear and simple. Don't forget to give a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Any questions or comments, put it down below, and we'll see you later.